Hello viewers, and welcome to another entry in the LOTR LCG Progression Series, a production by Cardboard of the Rings, the bi-weekly podcast about the Lord of the Rings, the card game, which is a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. My name is Mitch.
And this is Matthew.
Today we're going to be taking a look at the third and final scenario of the Heirs of Numenor Deluxe expansion, so Matthew, why don't you catch us up on our story?
So, Mitch, before I get to the narrative, we had done a contest on the Cardboard of the Rings Facebook page, polling our viewers to see if they could correctly guess how many attempts it would take you and I to get through into Ithilien. I was curious to see what people would say, because when I played the quest before, I think it took me about 20 times to beat it. There were a whole host of answers, some of them funny, like folks saying, "Are you even done attempting into Ithilien?" One person said, "Well, it took me 6, so I'm going to guess it will take you guys 7. So thanks for the vote of confidence there. But the one winner was Nigel McNaughton, who guessed 2. So Nigel, congrats. Here's your shout out. I hope you enjoy it. So with congrats to Nigel, here is the narrative. The island fortress of Cair Andros guards Gondor's northernmost causeways over the Anduin. Our heroes reach the causeway and enter the fortress as skirmishers appear on the eastern shore. Our heroes find Faramir in the citadel and deliver to him the scroll of Lord Alcaron. Drums are heard, and horns, and the tramping of many feet. An army of orcs and Southrons prepare a 3-pronged assault, and the heroes gird themselves for battle. For if Cair Andros falls, the doom of Gondor is nigh.
Alright, well now that we've got our story covered, why don't we go ahead and take a look at our player decks. So for this video, much like Peril in Pelargir, I'm going to be using leadership and tactics, and straying quite a lot from the tried and true dwarf formula that I've used in so many other videos, by using 3 dwarves, but not nearly so many dwarven allies. So even though I've got Erebor Battlemaster, Veteran Axe Hand, I'm using a lot of eagles, since we've got to do a lot of battle questing, a lot of siege questing, and to give us an even better chance at passing through this nasty scenario, I've got Defenders of Ramas, and a very reined-in number of direct damage effects, just because we're dealing with so many very powerful, very high hit point enemies. I've got some attachments to give me some additional character actions to boost my attack and defense. I've got a number of events to kind of stall enemies in the staging area and deal directly with attacks if enemies happen to get engaged with me. So I think that about says it. How about yourself, Matthew?
My deck is largely similar to those that I've been running so far for the Heirs of Numenor expansion, with a couple, I think, of noticeable differences. One, I bumped up Beaufort to 3 copies because I put a few more weapons in my deck, namely the Blade of Gondolin. There's so many orcs in this particular quest, I thought it might be nice to have Legolas, or maybe even Glorfindel, a little bit mightier against orcs, but even if not, clearing out these precious locations as quickly as possible was an additional thought behind including the Blade of Gondolin. Due to the increase in number of weapons in this deck, I also included Goblin Cleaver, again because there are so many orcs with high hit point values, and the Foe Hammer. Card draw has been somewhat of an issue in these quests because Mitch hasn't had Bearivore or whomever to help me draw some cards, so I'm hoping that with the combo of Foe Hammer and Goblin Cleaver, I'll really be able to kill enemies more easily and draw some cards while doing so.
Well, now that we've covered our player decks, why don't we go ahead and shuffle those and draw our opening hands before we cover setup and the rules unique to this scenario. So checking out my opening hand of 6 cards, I think I'm actually really satisfied with my opening hand. I've got a leadership 0-cost attachment to give a character, probably Baragond, an additional action. I've got a resource acceleration dwarf effect. I could ditch that to hopefully get Steward of Gondor. I've got a plate. I've got a powerful defensive ally sitting in my hand, a chump blocker, and even an effect to bolster Legolas's attack strength. So I'm very happy with my opening hand, sans Steward of Gondor. And I guess, what did you end up getting?
Contrary to some of the more recent comments on the COTR Facebook page, I, in our Heirs of Numenor quests, have been drawing horrid opening hands, or at least less than stellar. I will say, though, that I don't think that this opening hand could get too much better, so I am definitely not mulliganing this hand.
All right. Well, I guess now that we're both happy with our hands, why don't we go ahead and cover this quest? So taking a look at quest card 1A, this reads, add the approach, the citadel, and the banks to the staging area, and then shuffle the encounter deck. So something that's unique to this scenario is we begin the game with 3 different locations in play. Each of them has 1, 2, or 3 victory points, each has 1, 2, or 3 threat, and 3, 7, and 11 quest points. The way that these work, I'll go ahead and flip our quest card here to 1B, is players have to deal damage from undefended attacks to the lowest threat battleground location in play. So starting with the banks, then the approach, then the citadel, to represent the 3-pronged attack of the forces of the enemy against our heroes here. As soon as there are no battleground locations in play, we immediately advance to the next quest stage, and we've got a little bit of an option here. The banks can either leave play from taking damage if we do undefended enemy attacks, or if we explore them, each of them is associated with 1 quest phase. So if we explore the banks, quest phase 2 is gone. If we explore the approach, that's quest phase 3, and the citadel is quest phase 4. So each of these quest phases have their own unique challenges, whether it's revealing additional cards, battle questing, or siege questing. Hopefully Matthew and I are going to be able to get rid of most of these battleground locations through exploration. Our initial quest phase here with 9 quest points is siege questing. I've got to say I'm a little bit apprehensive about this quest, but we won't know how we do until we give it a shot. So I think that covers it. Shall we go ahead and start our first turn?
Let's do it.
Alright, so I believe I will make myself the first player. I'll do my resources. I will draw 1 card. For my very first turn, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a cram on your Baragond.
Fantastic.
I will also spend 2 tactics resources to do a Defender of Ramas, since we've got to do some siege questing right away.
Even better.
And I'll do my final resource for good old Snowborn Scout that has not seen play in a very long time, and I'm going to go ahead and put that 1 progress token on the banks. So, if we can avoid that willpower questing phase 2, that's probably a good thing.
Alright.
And how about your turn?
Well, Light of Valinor finally made an appearance in my opening hand, so that'll go on Glorfindel.
I think that's, the first time in 4 or 5 videos now?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Alright.
I will put the Blade of Gondolin on Legolas.
Another core set classic?
Yes, and I will use my final resource, while it won't help us much now, for the Vassal of the Windlord.
Alright, well, looks like a pretty reasonable turn from both of us. Hopefully the lack of card advantage doesn't end up being too much of a problem. For committing characters to the quest, we're already up against 6 threat. This first turn might be a little bit more difficult than subsequent ones. For committing characters, I think I definitely want to do Thalon and my Defender of Ramas, and that would be 6. I could also do Dane to make it 9.
Okay.
I guess the only thing is we don't want to generate too much progress, just because it would be a nightmare if we blow past our first location.
Well, I'm only going to send 5. I will be sending 5.
Okay, I guess who are you sending?
Baragond and Glorfindel.
Okay. Well, I guess Glorfindel doesn't exhaust. Baragond, you won't really need to discard Cram if no enemies come off, so
right.
We'll have to see what happens. So I think I'll send 9. Maybe I could do Gimli to block against an attack here. So.
Sounds good.
Alright, looks like a total of 14 modified. Let's go ahead and see what we get. So making sure that the encounter deck is shuffled first of all. Clicking back to my player tab, encounter card number 1 is a Haradrim Elite.
Okay.
So this is going to make an attack against the first player. I suppose I will use Gimli as my defender, and hopefully we won't get too nasty of a shadow effect. Shadow card is... attacking enemy gets +1, deal it another shadow card. So far, it is 5 attack. Deal the attacking enemy an additional shadow card for each player in the game.
Okay.
That's 2 additional shadow cards.
Uh-oh.
And that's something kind of unique to this scenario. Attacking enemy gets +2. Deal 2 damage to the Citadel. So the Citadel takes 2 points of damage. Looks like the Haradrim Elite are 4. 5, 6, 7 attack. So, it looks like that is a total of 7 attack, and as you can see by this shadow card chain, this is why you generally don't want to defend with your heroes. So, in this case, Gimli would be taking 5 attack, and he would be killed. I suppose at this point, Matthew, shall we just restart the game?
Sure.
Alright, let's see what our second encounter card would have been, just for fun. Would have been Orc Scramblers, would have taken a point of damage. An additional encounter card was each player discards top card of his deck until the end of the phase, raise the total threat in the staging area by X, whereas X is total cost. It would have been 1 and 1. So it would have been a total of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Would have been 12 threat that we were up against. We'd have made a couple progress. The Haradrim Elite probably would have been reasonable to deal with. With the Orc Scramblers, we probably could have had Legolas destroy a location here. But why don't we go ahead and, through the magic of OCTGN, reset our scenario very quickly. Alright, so now we've reset our playing field. We've got our 3 battleground locations sitting here in front of us. We've got our 5 different quest phases, and you might notice that there's a different hero on the table. So full disclosure, this is not going to be our first re-recording or our second re-recording, but the third re-recording. So in the process of trying to do an error-free, successful attempt playing through this scenario, Matthew and I have had 2 playthroughs where we noticed an unfortunately game-invalidating mistake after I've already done all the painstaking editing work. So we've made some significant changes to my deck in particular, namely swapping out Dane Ironfoot that I wasn't getting too much benefit from, and putting in Barivore, and a host of different encounter deck manipulating lore cards like Forest Snare, Ranger Spikes, possibly Asphaloth, Darren's Runes, and a few effects like Radagast's Cunning, and just for good measure, 1 copy of Gildor's Council to take up that awkward last card slot. So hopefully this will go much better than our previous attempts. So I suppose at this point, Matthew, why don't we go ahead and shuffle our player decks.
Okay.
I'll make myself the first player and draw our opening hand of 6 cards. For my hand, it's certainly got good stuff in it, but not nearly enough tactics cards, so I think unfortunately I'm going to have to take a mulligan. And how about you, Matthew?
I really like my opening hand, so I think I'm going to keep it.
Alright, well my second hand, it looks like, is probably going to work out a lot better for us. So I've already made myself the first player. Let's go ahead and add some resources and draw our very first card. I think for my planning, I'm going to go ahead and strip all my tactics resources, and I'm going to go ahead and put out a Gondorian Spearman. And I think I'll leave my lore resource open for next round. How about yourself?
Alright, I'm going to use 2 resources for a Defender of Ramas.
Okay, great. And I suppose that's it?
That is it for me.
Alright, well, for questing, I suppose I can send all of my characters for a total of 6.
I'll send 4.
Alright, so it's going to be a grand total of 10. Let's hope we don't end up gaining too much threat, making sure our encounter deck is indeed shuffled. Encounter card number 1 is an Orc Arbalesters, which is going to have Archery 3.
Alright.
And encounter card number 2 is going to be Orc Rabble. So it looks like we're up against a total of 10 threats, so we're not actually going to end up gaining any, and we will be breaking even.
Okay.
And this brings us to travel, and it just so happens that I've got a lore card in my hand that at the end of next turn, we could potentially get rid of, say, the banks.
Okay.
So do we want to go out of order and maybe travel to the approach?
Sure.
Alright, so I'll go ahead and make the approach our active location. And let's see here. For engagement, we've got the Arbalesters, which don't have to engage, but the Rabble likely are. I think it probably is a good idea for me to take the Rabble.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take the Arbalesters.
Okay, So I'll give those to you. Shadow cards are as follows. So now that we've done shadow cards, why don't we do our archery damage? And I suppose it's a decent idea to just put all 3 of those on Gimli straight away. So for my defense, I'll have the Gondorian Spearman defend against this Orc rabble. Would have been great if I could have gotten my horn out, but it takes 1 damage right away. And the shadow card is deal 2 damage to all battleground locations in play.
Yikes. Although that nasty treachery's gone.
Right, at least we don't have to deal with that. And of course, it's got 3 attack. It's going to end up killing my Gondorian Spearman. How do you want to deal with the Arbalesters?
I'll defend it with my Defender of Ramas.
Alright, shadow card is... Attacking enemy gets basically 2 attack strength, so the defender survives.
Yeah.
And for returning attacks, what do you
I'll have Legolas snipe over and kill your Orc rabble.
Okay, so the Orc rabble is killed, shadow card is gone, and that's 2 progress tokens on our active quest phase.
Glorfindel can't do much, but he can at least put 1 damage on the Arbalesters.
Right, so it's a little bit softened up, and I suppose that's our combat.
Yep.
Alright, so why don't we Control R to refresh, and I will go ahead and make you first player. Let's do our resources. I ended up getting a combat tactic.
Okay, so did I. I'm going to pay 1 for a Blade of Gondolin.
Great.
I will pay 1 for the Light of Valinor.
Alrighty.
And that's it for me.
Okay. For me, I suppose I'll do 2 lore resources for Asphalloth on your Glorfindel, if you want to go ahead and take control of that. And I'll do 1 resource off of Gimli for a Horn of Gondor on Barivor. And I think that's all I'm going to do.
Okay. So I will quest for 5.
I suppose I'll send all of mine once again. So that's going to be a total of 11.
Okay.
I forgot to get rid of this shadow card, so I'll get rid of that now. Encounter card number 1 is a Siege Raft, so that's going to be 2 damage to the lowest threat battleground location in play.
Well, I could cancel it.
I guess we might as well.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and spend 1 resource and cancel that.
Alright, not the greatest use of a cancel when revealed, but I guess since we already got 1 copy of Orc Salt out of the way, since we've got a hell of a lot more card advantage this turn, hopefully that'll end up working out okay. Encounter card number 2 is another Orc Arbalesters with Archery 3,
Thanks.
and that is going to make a grand total of 9 threat that we are up against. So we're going to generate 2 progress. So we've got 3 more quest progress until we get rid of our active location. For engagement, we've only got 1 enemy that has to be engaging with us. I guess, shall we give Siege Raft to you?
Okay.
Alright, and I guess we can leave this Arbalester here in the staging area.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and do some shadow cards. So starting with the Arbalesters, and then the Siege Raft. Before we resolve these attacks, we've got that Archery 6 to deal with. So I could certainly do 1, 2, 3, 4 on my side. But in case we reveal that 3 damage to off-sphere card,
Right.
looks like you'll probably have to pick up the slack there.
Yep, I did 1 on Legolas and 1 on Glorfindel.
Alright. So how do you want to deal with these attackers? I think to make the decision a little bit easier for you, I'm going to spend 1 tactics resource and I'll go ahead and feint that Siege Raft.
Okay, thank you. Then I will defend the Arbalesters with my Defender.
Alright, shadow card
nice.
is nothing, and a horrific effect to be gone, so your Defender lives.
Alright, and so I will kill the Arbalesters with Legolas and Glorfindel.
Alright, so getting rid of some of that archery damage. So let's go ahead and kill that enemy. Its shadow card is gone, and that means 1, 2, 3 progress on our active location because of Legolas and the Blade of Gondolin. So it is going to be Control V added to our victory display, and because the approach has been explored, that means that our breakthrough at the approach Quest Phase 3 is removed from the deck.
And then during our action windows here, I'll trigger Asphalloth to put 2 on the banks.
Alright, and that's pretty much that. Shall we refresh?
Let's do it.
Alright, so Control R, let's refresh.
Oh.
If you'd be so kind as to make me first player.
There's that shadow card you need to discard.
Right, so let me get rid of that.
And then I'm going to go ahead and trigger Asphaleth again, just so we don't lose the banks.
Alright, so that's 2 progress on the banks. Time to Control V, add that to our victory display, and that means that we remove reinforcing the banks from the quest deck as well. So now we've just got phase 4 and 5 remaining, and the board isn't even looking that terrible. But I suppose I've got to catch up to where you are, do my resources, draw 1 card, you've made me first player, and I think what I'm going to do is I'll do a Spear of the Citadel on Baragon for nothing, and I'm going to go ahead and do 2... Well, before I spend those tactics resources, I think I'm going to do a Daron's Runes to draw 2 cards. I ended up getting something pretty decent. And I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Radagast's Cunning, just in case one of us draws a Gondorian Spearman. I've now got a combat trick, and I suppose I'm going to spend both of my tactics resources for a Winged Guardian.
Okay. Well, your wish is my command. I will play a Gondorian Spearman. I happen to draw him this turn.
All right.
And that's going to be it for me.
Well, great. I guess next turn that could potentially be a hell of a lot of direct damage, and as soon as I put that Spear of the Citadel on the Spearman there, that could be an insta-kill of any Haradrim Elite that come off the encounter deck, which would be fantastic. So, shame I was first player and not vice versa. But anyway, I suppose that brings us to questing.
Okay.
Alright. I think what I'm going to do, since I, for one, am starting to run low on cards, I'm just going to send 4 and leave 1 ally open.
Okay. Oh, and then I forgot. In my head, I'd already committed to the people, but I didn't do it in real life, so I'm going to send 5.
Alright, so grand total of 9. And let's see what we get. Encounter card number 1 is a Mumak, but that's awfully high engagement cost. So maybe it'll stay in the staging area for a little while. Encounter card number 2 is an Orc War Camp. So this alone is going to match what we sent of 9. It just so happened that I ditched a Radagast's Cunning, which is too bad. But it looks like we're going to end up having to raise our threat by 5. So I'm at 37.
Okay.
But with that said, I suppose, shall we make the Citadel our active location?
Sure.
Alright, so I'll make that active. But at the present moment, looks like we've got a lot of nasty stuff sitting here in the staging area. For engagement, I'm 1 turn away from having the Mumak come down and attack me. Do you want to take the Arbalester?
Sure.
Alright, so I'll bring him down to you. At the beginning of combat, we've got Archery 3 to deal with. And I am pretty much pushed to the limit here.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and do the shadow cards to your enemies, and I think before we do any clever defensive stuff, I'm going to trigger Barivore to have me draw 2 cards, and I did not draw the wizard I was hoping to get. But I did end up getting a potent place in the staging area type effect.
Okay. So I'm going to play Faint on the Raft.
Okay.
And then I will defend the Arbalesters with my Defender.
Alright, so attack strength 1, shadow card is deal 2 damage to the Citadel.
Okay.
So that ended up doing a whole lot of nothing. Looks like that's all of our attacks.
Right.
So how do you want to return fire?
Legolas and Glorfindel will strike at the Orc Arbalesters.
Alright, so the Arbalesters are finally going to be killed. Their shadow card is also removed. Legolas's ability is going to trigger for 2 progress. The blade triggers for 1 progress. And I suppose that's really all that you can do.
Yep. Let's get rid of the shadow card here.
So let's see what that was.
Nothing.
Another terrible Southron support.
Nice to see
Excellent.
that go. Yep.
Alright, so I guess let's refresh. I'm now at 38, so it looks like the Mumak is going to come and play with me. I'll draw a card, I will do some resources, and you're first for planning.
Yep, I will pay 1 for a Vassal of the Windlord, and that is it for me.
For my turn, I think I'll do 2 tactics resources for a Spear of the Citadel on your Gondorian Spearman to give us some Haradrim Elite insurance, and then I'm going to do 2 resources off of Barivore in order to put a Ranger Spikes in the staging area.
Okay. So for questing, I will send 5 again.
Alright, and I suppose now is as good a time as any if you want to use Asphaloth?
Yep, sure.
Alright, so 2 progress on our Orc War Camp removes that from play. I suppose I'm going to go ahead and send all of my heroes to the quest for a total of 6. So, it looks like we're doing a grand total of 11.
Okay.
And let's see what we reveal. So, encounter card number 1 is an Orc Arsonist, so right away this is going to take 1 point of damage, and this is perfect fodder for our new Ultra Spearman.
And he's also going to get Ranger Spiked.
Right, actually, so I guess he's actually just going to get stuck with the Ranger Spike. So this is certainly not the ideal enemy to have that stuck to by any means. I'm actually kind of disappointed with that, but encounter card number 2 is going to be a Haradrim Elite. Okay. So this, right away, takes 1 point of damage from Thalon before anything else happens, and this reads, when it enters play, it makes an immediate attack from the staging area against the first player, presently you. So how do you want to defend?
I will defend it with Glorfindel. Just kidding, I thought you might have a reaction. I'm going to defend it with Gondorian Spearman.
Right, I guess me raising an eyebrow didn't transmit through the audio. So Gondorian Spearman deals 1 point of damage right away, and the Spear of the Citadel deals 1 point of damage right away. Right. Of course, the Haradrim Elite is killed. Discarded shadow card would have been this horrific Orc Vanguard. Yeah. So, looks like we're up against a modified total of 5. We're going to end up making 6 progress.
Pretty good.
Which puts this at 9. I think I fixed that error there. So, that brings us to engagement, and there is this big, nasty enemy sitting here. So I could certainly bring the Mumok to my side, accept my fate, or potentially you could have it sit on yours. I've got a Sentinel Defender that could help you, and next turn I've got a combat trick.
Okay.
But I'm thinking you've probably got better damage potential than I do. But at the same time, I'm not so sure it's going to matter.
Yeah, I don't know.
I suppose I'll bring him down to engage with me. Okay. At the very least, I can deal with him for a few turns.
Okay.
So we don't have to deal with this Arsonist engaging with us.
Okay.
You're first player, so here's a shadow card for you, and here's a shadow card for me. How do you want to deal with Siege Raft?
I will do my Defender.
Alright, so the Defender, let's hope for no shadow card.
Oh, wow.
Is no shadow effect. Awesome.
Yeah.
So he survives.
Yes, indeed.
And on my side of the table, the Mumok, I'll defend with my Winged Guardian. Attacking enemy goes to 8 and gets another shadow card.
Oh, poor Eagle.
And
Lieutenant of Mordor, nice.
Lieutenant of Mordor, right. So the Eagle is destroyed. Horn of Gondor triggers.
Nice.
I wonder if that's the first time I've said that in this series, at least for my characters.
Right. I don't know. So let's see. Attack. So I have to do a total of 7. He's not an orc. So Legolas and Glorfindel are only 6.
Right, but he's already got that point of damage,
yep.
So
that's
they
exactly
are
just enough.
more than...
Right.
So yeah. Not more than sufficient, but anyway, they are killed. Shadow card is gone. 2 points from Legolas means Control V to add the Citadel to our victory display. Blade of Gondolin puts 1 point on our current quest phase. And why don't we go ahead and pull Breakthrough at the Citadel down and put it out of play.
Okay.
So at the present moment, as soon as we make 8 more progress, we've got to move on to the last battle, which, as we have 6 victory points, is going to be battle questing. And we've got to reveal an additional 2 cards from the encounter deck once we make it there.
Okay.
So at the end of combat, let me get rid of these shadow cards. And I suppose that is that. So let's go ahead and Control R to refresh. You've made me first player. I'll draw 1 card. I'll do my resources. I think what I'm going to do is I'll spend 2 lore resources to do an Ithilien Tracker.
Nice.
And that's it for me.
Okay, I'm going to spend 1 for a Rivendell Blade on Legolas.
Awesome.
And then I will spend 1 for a Vassal of the Windlord.
Great. Fantastic.
And that's it for me.
All right. So for questing, we're up against a total of 1 threat right now. We need 8 to pass through, and it's probably a good idea to preserve as much attack strength as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
For my characters, I'm going to go ahead and do 4, and I'm going to use the Athelian Tracker's ability. So the next enemy revealed will have threat 0.
All right, well, let's hope we get some enemies, and then I will do my usual 5.
All right. I'd say, given this encounter deck, it's probably pretty likely.
Yeah.
So let's see what we get. Encounter card number 1
It's an
is
enemy.
a battering ram, so it takes 1 point of damage, doomed 2, and it's contributing 0 threat. The active location is not a battleground,
All right.
so the win revealed doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Next card is Orc Scramblers, which takes 1 point of damage, and it is going to surge
Oh, jeez.
to a Southron Mercenary. So this is 2, 3, 4 threat that we're up against. We've got a total of 5 that we're going to end up making.
Okay. So we should be able to pass this one once Legolas kills something.
Right. So let's see what happens here.
So before we move out of the travel phase, I'm going to pay 1 for Hands Upon the Bow.
Okay.
And because archery is getting a little out of control, I think that I'm going to take out the Southron Mercenaries.
Alright, so Legolas attacks for 4 by himself. The Rivendell Blade negates that defense, so the Southron Mercenaries are going to be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And at the present moment, we can place up to 3 progress.
I'm thinking we don't want to, because then we have to reveal 2 more enemies, or 2 more cards, of which they could be enemies, and that could be pretty bad.
Right.
So, I mean, we're going to have to do it next turn no matter what, but I don't have any tricks up my sleeves, so maybe we should just do the 2 progress.
Sure. So let's just put a couple on there. Maybe it'll give us an additional turn to come up with something clever.
Right.
Why don't I trigger Barivore now and have you draw another couple cards?
That's actually pretty good, so, okay.
Good. Excellent. It's refreshing to be playing with card advantage here.
Right.
So, now that we're at engagement, how do we want to deal with these?
Well, if I take the Orc Scramblers, my Spearman could kill them right off.
Well, I suppose your Spearman does have Sentinel.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter whose side takes it, but yeah.
So, for engagement, why don't we go ahead and throw that battering ram down to be pulverized by you, and I'll take the formidable Orc Scramblers here.
Okay.
There's no archery damage for us to deal with. Shadow cards go as follows. For the Mumok, I suppose I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 resource off of Gimli, and I'm going to faint.
Okay.
And
then I will use my Spearman to take care of the Orc Scrambler.
Great, so it takes 2 points of damage. It is immediately killed. Shadow card that goes away is
Nice.
attacking enemy, would have been attacking for 3.
Okay.
And battering ram.
I'm going to have to use my Defender.
Right, so now that siege questing is no longer a thing, might as well get rid of him. Attacking enemy is going to be swinging for a total of 8.
So your Horn of Gondor triggers.
Right, excellent. So 1 resource for me.
And he's dead.
Yes.
So attacks, you can't do anything. But gosh, as much as I'd love to use my my little Vassals of the Windlord here to help out Glorfindel, I don't want to lose them for battle questing. So I guess I can't do anything.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate how that all played out, but
Right.
definitely want to try and keep those around. So.
Right.
I suppose, shall we just refresh?
Yep, after the shadow cards are discarded. What'd the Mumok get?
So, let's see. Would have been
Okay, good.
plus
Well, at least the archery
3.
X is gone again.
Yeah. Alright, so that is gone. This is gone. And let's refresh. So, I'll make you first player. I'll draw 1 card, which actually... I'm 1 resource shy of being able to throw out a forest snare, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, we needed something. Oh, I should have used the Vassal of the Windlord.
I guess, yeah.
Oh well. So I'll play 2 for the Winged Guardian,
Okay.
and that's it for me.
Alright, and I think for me, this is maybe a little risky, but I think I'll trigger Barivore to have myself draw a couple cards. Wow, that really didn't end up going too well. I got another copy of a character who it doesn't really do anything to, you know, triggers or effect more than once, and then another Horn, so, oh well, it can't always work out. And then, why don't I spend 2 tactics resources for a Gondorian Spearman, and I'm going to do 2 lore resources for another Ithilien Tracker, just to put another body on the table.
All right.
And that is going to be it for me.
Okay.
So for questing, we only need 1 progress.
I'm just going to send
so
5
we're
again.
Probably going to push through.
Yep, I'll send 5.
And for me, this is a really tough call. I think I'm going to send 4 to put us at 9.
Okay.
I think I'm fine just sending those 4.
All
so
right.
grand total of 9. Let's pray for the best. Encounter card number 1 is an Orc Scrambler.
Okay.
Encounter card 1 is going to be when revealed. Each player discards the top card of his deck. Until the end of the phase, raise the total threat in the staging area by X.
This could be bad.
So,
oh, a feint. That sucks.
and mine is
a
feint.
Feint.
Oh, God.
All right, well, it's only up by 2.
Right.
For a second, I thought it was the reshuffle, the encounter, which I thought would be funny, but it's not.
Right.
Or the stage.
So I'll just put that there as a reminder. Encounter card number 2 is an Orc Rabble, which is great fodder for our Ultra Spearmen.
Yep.
And this means we're going to be up against 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 threat, which means we're going to end up making 3 quest progress.
Okay.
So at the present moment, we've got 11 out of those 9 points, and that is going to bring us to the last battle, which is battle, since we've got 6 victory points, and we've got to reveal 1 card per player from the encounter deck and see what we get. So I'm feeling good. So encounter card number 1 is a Battering Ram, which is doomed to, and a 7 attack Ungodly Enemy. Encounter card number 2 is another Orc Rabble.
Okay.
So this is certainly bad, but somehow I don't feel it's impossible. So for engagement, why don't I go ahead and put the Battering Ram on my side of the table.
Okay.
I'll have you optionally engage this Orc Rabble.
All right.
Engagement checks, this Orc Rabble comes to me, and this Orc Scrambler goes to you.
Okay.
So let's see here. For shadow cards, again, there's no archery. We've got to deal them out as follows. And for Sentinel Defenses, what do we want to do here?
Well, I will kill my rabble with my Gondorian Spearman.
Okay, so Gondorian Spearman defends, 1 damage, Spear of the Citadel, 1 damage. It's immediately killed. The discarded shadow card is the Master's Malice, which wouldn't have been the worst thing to draw. So, gone. I'm going to go ahead and defend your Orc Scramblers with my Gondorian Spearman. So that's 1... Oh, wait.
How are you doing your defenses?
Shit. I did it wrong. God damn it. So, you're going to notice a distinct backing up of this video. We made a little bit of an error for how we wanted to distribute these enemies. So, rethinking things, we're going to have Matthew optionally engage this Battering Ram. For engagement checks, this Orc Rabble is going to come down to him, this Orc Rabble will come down to me, and then these Orc Scramblers are going to go to Matthew.
Alright.
For defending attacks, we've already established that Matthew is going to defend against this Orc Rabble with his Spearman and Spear of the Citadel combo, so that is killed straight away, and I am going to have my Gondorian Spearman defend against his Orc Scramblers. So 1 point of damage, it is killed. Its shadow card would have been starting a nightmarish shadow chain.
Alright, and then I'm going to have my Winged Guardian do 1 of the Battering Rams.
Alright, why don't we just do this? Wounded 1, doesn't matter too much. Shadow card is attacking enemy, attacks for 9. So your Winged Guardian is destroyed. That's 1 resource for Barivore.
And then I'll just have a Vassal of the Windlord do the other one.
Alright. Flipping that card, it is attacking enemy gets +2, so it also swings for 9. Your vassal is killed. That's one more resource for Beravor. On my side of the table, I will have the Mumok attack defended against by the Scythian Tracker. And this is what I was really afraid of, is it attacks again. Do you happen to have a shadow cancellation?
I sure don't.
Okay. So, Ithilien Tracker is going to be killed, and that's one resource on Beravor. Let's do the second attack of the Mumok. So, its shadow card, I'll defend with my Ithilien Tracker, is... Deal 2 damage to all battleground locations in play. The tracker is killed. That's one more resource on Beravor. And I'm gonna have to do the Orc Rabble undefended.
Let's hope for no shadow card.
This is attacking enemy gets +2. So I've basically got to pick a hero to be killed. Looking at my hand, I know I can get a 2 attack strength ally if I kill Beravor, whereas even though she has a lot of resources, who knows what I could draw. It might very well be something incredible like Gandalf, but again, it might not be. So I'm going to go ahead and deal the 5 damage from that attack to Beravor, and she is killed. The Horn of Gondor is gone, as is that big pile of resources.
Yikes.
So how do you want to do your attacks?
Well, I've got to kill one of these things. I have to do 7 damage. But I do have the Rivendell Blade. So Legolas and Glorfindel will kill the damaged battering ram.
Alright, so let's remove that from play, and Legolas triggers, his blade triggers, and that's 3 out of our 12 points on our current quest. So, things are looking pretty bad on my side of the table. I suppose that's really all we can do. So, let's get rid of these shadow cards.
Okay.
And I'm thinking we might have to make a desperate race for the finish here. So let's Control R, refresh. If you'd please make me first player, I'm sitting at 45 threats. I'll draw 1 card. I will do my resources. I ended up pulling a Ranger Spikes, which would have been basically the same if I'd have left Beravor in play. So I will do 2 resources for a Veteran Axe Hand, presuming we want to make a mad dash to the end.
And that is what I will also do.
Alright, so no Dane present, but they still have a pretty respectable amount they can contribute.
Alright, well let's hope for a Treachery and the Orc War Camp.
Alright, so here's hoping.
Alright, so if I send everyone, I'm sending 13.
Alright, and I can do Gimli for 6. Thalon makes it 8, Spearman makes it 9, Veteran makes it 11. So I do 11. Looks like we're going to be sending a grand total of 24.
All right.
And we need 12. Please, Matthew, let this work.
Orc War Camp, come on.
Encounter card 1.
Orc War Camp.
Is the Master's Malice, which is actually pretty good. So I can pick, I'll pick Tactics, and I take no damage.
So I can, so I can as well, and then Glorfindel will still be alive.
Yes.
I don't have to waste my cancellation.
Right. He does take 3 damage, but he's still hanging in there.
Yep.
Encounter card number 2
Orc War Camp
is Orc Assault.
Bam, I can at least cancel that.
Thank you, God. Finally, Orc Assault is canceled. We're up against 1 threat. Matthew, what is 24 minus 1?
23.
Right, so that puts us at 26 out of our 15 required quest points. At this point, we have finally defeated the Siege of Cair Andros. So, any final thoughts, Matthew?
I definitely enjoy this quest. I think it is my favorite of the 3 from the Deluxe expansion here. The first one is certainly fun. Into Ithilien is a little less fun, I think, just due to the difficulty. But this one is interesting. I like the sort of the narrative, how the city is facing a 3-pronged attack, and depending on how well you siege or shore up each of the 3 locations, you can ward off the attack and move on to the next area. So I think it's a theme home run. I think it's a home run for tactics players like me, because there's lots of defending and attacking and fun stuff that we can do. I definitely think the addition of Barivore, which I'm sure you'll talk about a little bit, was beneficial. Asphalloth surely shined in the early game when we wanted to clear out those locations, and he would have shined against the Orc War Camp. Although, you know what? Keeping in mind that you had the Orc Rabble in play, Asphalloth actually wouldn't have come in handy because there would have been an Orc in play. But with that said, I really enjoyed this quest a lot. I'm glad to get through Heirs of Numenor, and I'm looking forward to our upcoming quests.
Yeah, I've definitely got to agree that I think this is a very fun scenario. It was a little bit of a heartbreak that we had to replay this so many times off camera because of those game invalidating mistakes. I'm glad that I think it's pretty fair to say, narrowly scraped through on this one. I suppose looking at the board, had I held back both of my allies to do another couple defenses, I certainly could have survived. We ended up making 11 more quest progress than we ended up needing, so we certainly could have held some defenders back. Possibly could have done a little bit of cleaning up, but we'd have still been in pretty terrible shape. So we certainly didn't make it by the skin of our teeth, I think, but I'm glad that we won when we did. And it's just amazing how much nasty stuff there is in this encounter deck to kind of synergistically work against the players. Our threat values were very high. Barivore ended up working out pretty well. It was kind of nice to take a little bit of a break from playing very dwarf-heavy decks, which I say having 2 dwarf heroes and a dwarf ally on the table, but overall it was a fun game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I think that's all I have to say. Well, we might as well bring this video to a close, so if you guys enjoyed another entry in the progression series, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already, feel free to leave a comment below letting us know what your own strategies against the Siege of Cair Andros have been, if you've had better luck than we have, or even worse luck. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the new hero, player, and treasure cards of the Hobbit on the Doorstep Saga expansion, so we'll see you again soon. Forest Snare, Ranger Spikes, possibly Asphalloth, Darren's Runes, and a few effects like Radagast's Cunning, and just for good measure, 1 edition of Gilron's Council. So, Gilron's. And just for good... I always want to leave that in. Gilron. Anyway.